Hey everyone, and welcome to a Planet Zoo update video. In last week's Frontier Unlocked, they have actually just very briefly touched upon this game, specifically for PC. They obviously have announced the next kind of bundle for consoles, but as this is just like more or less everything we've already known, and just like getting console players back in with all the content that we already have for the PC game, they briefly told us that at the end of March, in the next Frontier Unlocked, there will be news about another PC update. We all know that there will be one, because they said that this won't be the end, so even in this year we will be getting another DLC/free update, who knows. And this is something I want to talk you through in this video, but I'm not going to do the typical kind of wild speculation video, because I think we are out of this, it's out of the frame, so to say. I made a video a while ago in which I kind of stated that maybe they have changed direction, and well, if they did, we will see this with the next update, but this is still very unlikely. I said it in the video, it is absolutely unlikely that they did. That was more likely my wish, that they would consider updating this game more than we expected them to do, because of how basically Planet Coaster 2 has been launched. Let's put it that way and put a full stop here. Now let's talk about the positive things. In the past couple updates, we have seen Frontier really listening to the community, and specifically to the meta wish list that was on the forums. For the longest time, I wanted to not believe it. I remember that Mr. Eben has been telling us for such a long time that Frontier has been following this list very closely, and in every DLC you've seen them repeatedly using a pattern that came from the meta wish list. And I mean, it's kind of clever, isn't it? Because people in the forums voting, it's the closest to your community, they will potentially know what the community wants. And we are so far in the game's lifespan that I definitely would say it makes a lot of sense to follow the closest wishes of your community. If there's only like a couple of animals coming in, you better get those animals in that people really want. Because frankly, there are not that many star animals left that you could bring in if you don't go into, obviously, the birds or the full aquatic territory. That said, let's switch over to the wonderful meta wishlist, and there's even more. This has been updated last year after the last couple of DLCs, when everyone knew, okay, you know what, it's getting less and less important to have the first wishlist, because the very old wishlist, more than half of it is already in the game. So you can see they changed this up a little bit. So now we do have a sample list that gives people an idea how to do it, and then we have an animal wishlist, a building piece wishlist, a free update wishlist, and the last one isn't really important because that one is a spoiler wishlist. I took this specifically. I'm not sure if that's a completely correct one, because there are obviously a lot of wishlists in here, but that shall not be the thing, because the things in here are very interesting. So we are starting with the animal wish list, because I remember that most of these things are very identical to what has been seen in the first wish list, and obviously things have been moved upwards. And I gotta say that the amount of votes obviously doesn't represent a full community, but it's still a very good indication of what to expect. So based on this list, and in the past we've always talked about, okay, does the DLC need a theme or something? And the last couple of DLCs, Frontier was very good at finding a framework that fits them all, a zookeeper's wish list, whatever, a kind of conservation animals. Like, you will find a framework to put everything in you want to put in. That said, let's quickly go through the list, and the most wished for animal is the tree kangaroo. As much I would love it, I would put a skip on that one, because knowing how the koala works in game, I don't need another animal that is actually most likely living in the trees, being just fully ground dwelling, and I don't think they will completely change their system. So I don't know, hit or miss, but as much as I love the animal for its sake, I am absolutely saying do a skip if it's the same mechanic as the koala. I don't really need it though, but hey, who am I to say that? Then going down here, the koala I would take, even though it's a similar kind of issue with it, but I still would take it because I would love this model, absolutely. And I would go for the white-nosed one if you ask me, but that's just me personally. I don't really think why we would go for a macaw, because we don't have a fully flying animatic. This is why I would go for the secretary bird, and totally would take that one. I just generally would love to see it in game. It's absolutely one of the things that I would love to see because of the way this bird just looks. I know it's a fan favorite. I know it would be really cool. So yeah, but then for me the star of the show would be number 4, the walrus. How do you say that in English? Walrus? I don't know. This one for me personally is for like ever I wanted to have it. Ever since we had the implementation of the sea lions, I was like, give me this one, because that's one of the most aquatic animals you can squeeze into the current way the game works. You know, it is kind of a semi-aquatic animal, but you could build some really cool habitats for them. Something really almost new, I would say, because of the way the animal is. I don't know, I just really would love it going to this one. And the next one on my personal list would be the howler monkey. Just simply because I know how cool the monkeys have become so far, and I think it's a super cool moment to have another monkey in the game. And I like, this is the packs I loved the most were where the versatility in animations is the biggest, and having a, let's say, tree climbing animal, a ground dwelling animal like the secretary bird, a semi-aquatic animal, and a very active climber is a very versatile kind of thing. That said, I'm absolutely not sure if they would do it. I'm guessing we are getting an animal pack again. However, I want to make this video if we would not get an animal pack, but actually a typical normal pack, means 4 animals plus 1 exhibit animal, because I would then go with this one down here, the chameleon. I think if Frontier is going to bring out another exhibit animal, potentially one that would be very cool, give us a chameleon with an actual like color changing animation, like having a bit of a more exposed, or maybe it's a walkthrough exhibit even. Imagine having a walkthrough exhibit with them, and then similar to, yeah, I don't want to, you know, the sloth is kind of very slow, but similar to this habitat, imagine they would be moving in a bit of a bigger pathway. Obviously it's predefined and pre-animated, but it would be so cool to see them actively change the color. That would be really damn cool, and I would love to see that as a walkthrough animal, that we can then also kind of change the way we want to make it look. That would be a pack that I totally would be up for. Obviously there are a lot of other cool animals in here, but also for me personally, there is really not that much in anymore where I'm like, oh, I need to have it. And again, always please keep in mind, I'm basing that off of the fact that they won't change anything in the mechanic of the game anymore, so we are not going to get fully birds, a full bird animatronics, or like fully flying mechanic, as well as not getting fully the diving and like full aquatic, even though having played the wonderful 2 Point Museum, which is a great game by the way, and you should better check out my gameplay on that because it's really cool. They had full aquariums in, and funny enough, they basically had the same kind of mechanic I would see for Planet Zoo if they would go for full aquatic. Like basically the way how they had the entrances to the habitats, and how then the keeper changed from going into an airlock and then coming out in a wetsuit, is exactly how I would see that. So yeah, you know, I don't know, that would be fine. Sure, we could then say, if we go back to this list, we could say a parrot or so would be also really cool as a walkthrough exhibit animal, but yeah. And down here there are a lot of cool animals, like a squirrel for example, or like a roadrunner, and like all good animals, don't worry. But like an owl, I don't want to have an owl as long as we don't have as I said, the full flying mechanic. Let's not go into the very cool big birds. It doesn't make any sense. Like the parrot I kind of see, but then again I can't. It's too much of a typical flying animal, which the walkthrough wouldn't really pay tribute to it, and I wouldn't really love to see that. However, when we go to the owl, absolutely don't want to see that one, because that would take so much away from the aesthetics and the greatness of this animal. Same would go for like ravens and hawks and you name it, okay? Eagles, apparently, that all. And then when we look into that one, there are a lot of kind of copy-paste animals. At this point, I don't need a Sumatran tiger. I'm gonna say that to you fully honest, like there are brilliant mods out there for specific, like if we're only talking for like specific variants of a species that we already have in-game, like the iguana, for example, or that also goes obviously for most, like the mosaic giraffe, for example. I can totally find myself using the specific mods. I know it's kind of something you shouldn't really take. Same goes for the ocelot. It's really, I don't need this to be frankly honest. You could argue the same about the howler monkey, but then again, I think the model is different enough from other monkeys. The same goes for the secretary bird and the aquatic, so that's why I think they would technically be a bit of a difference also in animations, even though modders can do animations by now, but I wouldn't, you know, specifically for the people on console, I would love this to be a bit more versatile for those as well. Well, that said, there are obviously a couple of very cool animals in here. If, you know, I could be fully on wishing some stuff, there's obviously the manatee, which 100% I would love to have, because that makes sense. Green anaconda is another one that I would love to have in-game, but not the way it is right now, because this an anaconda in one of those exhibits is just not like it. The same goes with the ones in-game right now, the big snakes. It doesn't give me anything. It's not the way how you would love to have that. And then if we go further in here, a koi would be a fun addition, but koi and squirrel and also pigeon, which is that I don't even know if it's in the list, but like these animals for me typically would have been an ambience animal, if you will. Like I'm still not really sure why we don't even have ambience birds and so on. We do have them again in Planet Coaster 2 now. It's a bit of an odd one, and I would have loved to have some, like just for the sake of the realism, because many zoos, being a very big nature reserve in its own, have a lot of these things, like a lot of free-flying birds and squirrels and stuff living in those zoos as well, but not like in the habitat, because they are almost impossible to be kept if you don't do that like intentionally, you know. They just live in your zoo, and I would have loved to see that. But yeah, we could go now all the way through all the animals, but that's just not what I wanted to do, because as I said, I have a 5+ pieces list, if you will. And for me personally, let's go into the building wish list, which I can totally see. However, it's kind of funny that people put in like, I don't want to mean anything bad on anyone, but like for me personally, pieces equal scenery pieces, and like in this one we have pieces and features, which doesn't really fit together. Like underwater tunnel, for example, in my opinion is not a piece, because that has to be a mechanic. First of all, we don't have proper underwater mechanics in terms of building a tunnel, which, don't get me wrong, I would love to see that, but it's just not in, you know. And I would love to see some proper pieces, but if we talk about the piece, we funnily enough have a kind of underwater tunnel piece in game, which is rather ridiculous to have that without having it, but whatever. What I like about this list is other educational panels where guests can interact or take photos, because yes, the one kind of vertical education board is not enough, okay? And then backstage pieces, I totally do love this. Not sure what that is, by the way, over here. Like, no one asked me for that one, so I don't really get this. However, down here below that one, that would be fun, because we do have a lot of these education boards which have the kind of preservation with the bees on them and so on. Really would love to see that as an, maybe like these typical, I always used to say the kind of kids enrichment pieces, but apparently obviously they're education pieces for kids. But it would be lovely to see them, and then maybe have a keeper do a bit of a, or like maybe an educator do like a bit of a talking about this. There are a lot of cool ideas in here. But to be completely honest with you, I do see a backstage pack being the most easy one for them to integrate without finding a proper theme, because otherwise you would then really have a hard time finding a theme. Like underwater is kind of already done with the aquatic pack, and if you don't really add a mechanic for that, there's no point in creating a theme. So it's really hard, because we are so far into the game's lifespan that you you have to construct something. I would say like a proper backstage area, like maybe kind of call the pack, I don't know, behind the scenes zoo pack, or the backstage zoo pack, or the expert zoo pack, whatever. That would be fun. Like, it's not like, maybe you can argue that keeping a walrus is very hard. I'm not even sure if that is the case, but kind of just glue that together this way. But like, also for example, bird watching, it just doesn't make any sense if you don't have the mechanics. So again, as I said, I don't want to step on someone's toes, but like, a couple of these things are nice ideas, but not more than that. What's more important though is the free update wishlist, and now it's getting very interesting, because except not having that in the building pieces wishlist, I expected them in here. We have a lot of plants in here, and I do actually agree with this. I would love to see a lot of new plants. Specifically lavender is something I would love to see. I mean, doing a like Dutch park right now, tulips are absolutely necessary for me, so yes, give them to me, absolutely. But also cotton grass, elder. Would be really good to have something like pampas grass. Is something I've been missing so much, because it's such a typical zoo filler plant, if you will. I really would love to see that. I mean, playground, I do see them doing this. They are very, very common in zoos. They're not so common in theme parks, but if I were Frontier, I would try to find some synergies. Like, if you do this now for Planet Zoo, arguing where to get the resources from is relatively hard, I am assuming, in such a late stage of the game's existence. So they really don't have a big team on it anymore. But if you could skip, or like could fit some synergies in here, if they are thinking about making a playground to, or a similar thing like a playground to Planet Coaster 2 in the future, they could already give you some of the mechanics and give that for a playground in Planet Zoo, gather experience about how people use it and how it functions, and then retrofit that back into Planet Coaster 2 as maybe a better version or whatnot. I totally would see that happening if they are willing to do a bit of a bigger free update. Regarding the last update, the big free update time is kind of gone, so I wouldn't be too optimistic in seeing a big kind of update. However, what I would see is another animal remaster, because people have been asking for that. The same goes for the more animal color variants. I feel like there are some really good ones in here, but for me personally, a proper Frontier lion remaster as well as a snow leopard, I see both of them absolutely needed. Would be very, very cool, like a big cat kind of remaster, I don't know. And then also seeing some more flamingo variants would also be very fun. Other than that, egg laying, for example, is completely out of the scope. Completely. Even in a Planet Zoo 2, I wouldn't even be too optimistic that's been in, because there was like, it's a core change to the game, I guess. So yeah, I don't see, as much as I would love seeing that, I don't see it. So yeah, we have the same like playground mechanics, new animal feeders. This, by the way, is something I have been talking a lot in the past, and this for me personally is maybe one of the biggest misses that Frontier had during the entire Planet Zoo lifespan. Except a relatively rough start to Planet Zoo as well. It's not been anywhere near as rough as Planet Coaster 2 has been, but the first weeks of Planet Zoo have been rough indeed, but it's never been such a fail. I want to say that the rest of the Planet Zoo time has been increasingly, because I mean, the way how I look at games right now has changed, but increasingly exceptional. And I mean this in the most positive way. We can argue that the game is lacking a lot of core features. I still stand by that. But I personally feel like that the game's lifespan has been exceeded a lot to what I was expecting. Like, we're talking 6 years by now. We are talking about very, very substantial updates for the longest time. We've been talking about a huge roster of animals. We've been talking about a huge amount of incredible free updates, if you think about how much the game has changed from its beginning. So Frontier did a lot of great stuff. And yes, they didn't implement flying birds and fully aquatic stuff, potentially because they want to keep something for a potential second game. But, and this is for me what I said, the biggest miss is they never really looked back into animal feeding. I don't know, so many people have been doing this during their lives. I remember the bestest kind of custom feeders that have been made and very complicated ways of using enrichment pieces to make it fake. I don't really know. From the very beginning, we had these very odd like feeder platforms, and that's about it. This has been something I was expecting to be changed over the course of time, but it's not, and I think this is a huge miss. So, I would say 99% there is not going to be a new animal feeder, but for the future Frontier, if you're listening and you do this game in the future as a second part, please consider this being a thing, because it's so vital to theme park, to zoos. And yeah, down here you obviously have flying as a behavior. Yeah, it's not gonna happen now. Show zookeeper kitchen for guests to watch, like we have it in here. I mean, at least we have visible interiors, right? But yeah, there's like a lot of cool stuff in here, a very good list in general, but I don't think it's a thing. Oh, by the way, one thing I wanted to mention is this one down here. The drinking fountains, again, would be a feature that you can one by one copy to Planet Coaster 2. Like, if you look at these things, I think there is a lot of cool ideas you could bring over, and for me personally, the drinking fountains is one of those things. That would be really cool. That would be really, really cool to have. A very small thing, to be honest. It's like a guest interaction, yes, but very, very easy one, I guess, and also a very usable one for either zoos or theme parks. I really love that. Anyhow, it's long enough for now. The video is already long enough, and I think it's hopefully the video was interesting for you, but it was also very interesting and important for me to make, because I desperately love this game, gotta say, and it's much harder to move over to Planet Coaster 2 a bit more than it used to be for me back then to move over to Planet Zoo, which is testament to how good this game actually is. And getting a new DLC obviously keeps me on my own toes. I shouldn't say that as a camel. Never mind. Sorry. It's late, okay? I still believe that this game has so much potential, and I want to leverage that. I want to keep doing stuff in this game because I love it. And again, the performance is not as much as an issue as it was with Planet Coaster back in the day in comparison. The same goes for the graphics now, and so on and so forth. So don't expect me to stop this game anywhere soon. And even with more content and new content, it's getting even better. And I definitely want to finish also Venlo Zoo, and I've got so many other ideas I want to do. At the moment, it's just a lack of time, but we're getting there. So thank you so much for your ongoing support, guys. It really does mean a lot to me. And for those of you who are specifically here for Zoo, I hear you, I see you. Thank you for sticking with me. Make sure to still keep on watching Planet Coaster 2. I want to make it as much fun and enjoyable for everyone, and mix in all the stuff we have. And maybe in the future, who knows, maybe we all will be, at the end of the day, have the best time of our lives, which could be happening if there is no Planet Zoo 2 coming out. But if Frontier is going to correct the mistake they did with Planet Coaster 2 and bring out Planet Resort to fix both the game Planet Coaster 2 in technically being Planet Coaster 3 as being a resort game with all the features, and bringing in a Planet Zoo 2, if you will. I know it's completely unrealistic. However, that's just my dream, okay? Let's manifest this dream for now. Thank you so much, as always, for watching. Have a good time, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Happy weekend, and bye.